And so I did the thing that every excited Catholic does, jumped into the space with fervor, said to my husband, yeah, sure, let's do that pilgrimage you've been asking me about. How many of you guys have been on a Catholic pilgrimage before? Okay, there we go. How many of you guys have done Chartres? A lot more, yes. Yeah, even the Catholics are like, are you crazy? Yep. 66 miles walking. And it's because I had no time to think that I said yes immediately. I said, yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to baptize Catholic. Let's do it. And so I'll explain it to you guys for those of you that are not aware of how that works. You show up in Paris, and you essentially the night before, you kind of meet with your group. That's 50,000 people that are going to walk 66 miles across 2.5 days with little more than whatever you can carry, your knapsack. And Father Witos, ours was the Australian U.S. group, and Father Witos led it, and everybody has a priest. Every group has a priest, about 20 people per group, and you do Latin prayers. On the first day, I guess I was back at what I would describe in my Catholic journey at mile zero. I didn't really know anything, but I was excited to be there, and I was concerned that the groups would move too slowly. If whoa, we have to walk with them. What if we want to walk ahead? My husband's like, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine. Man, I was so wrong. I mean, right after you have the Mass to begin at the center of Paris, then you start walking, and in those first 7 miles, I realized that these French Boy Scouts are built different. They are built different. They are like super athletes, and I realized I'm going to be run walking this entire thing. And we've got the St. Joseph flag, and they're marching with it, and they just Latin prayers the entire time. I didn't know a single Latin prayer as we began. I think I now speak fluent Latin, so anybody who wants to just jump in to anything, and they're just marching. I mean, just like Spartans going to war. Salve Regina. I mean, it's amazing. And the first 7 miles, I felt good. I was like, this is good. First day, you're going 28 miles. But I was like, you know what, I got this. It's walking. How bad could this be? And I felt great about that. The first 7 miles, you take a quick little break, have some water. And then you get to mile 15, and it's a lunch break. And by a lunch break, it's a giant field. It's burning, blistering hot. And you just kind of sit on the grass, and whatever you were able to pack, you can have. They also throw around bread boxes. You just see these cardboard boxes filled with bread, and everyone kind of diving into it because you're so hungry after 15 miles. But truly, I was so hot and exhausted, I couldn't even physically eat. I was like, if I even look at some of this stuff, I'm going to throw up. And my husband and the French Boy Scouts were whipping out like cheese and croissants and salami. And there were little Boy Scout knives. And then they had this thing called pork butter. Ugh. And I'm like, you're not going to eat that. My husband just dipped right into the pork butter. He was doing great. He was totally fine. And then you continue on, and you're like, okay, I'm okay. But right around mile 18 is when you're going, uh-oh. Like, I am mentally and physically, I am so proud of myself for having made it to mile 18. But there's 10 miles left. 10 miles left. And I don't know if I can do this. And right then, it started to torrential downpour. Torrential downpour. And so now you're moving at a sloth's pace because it's all just mud. You're going through the wood, and you're completely soaked. And at this point, you start seeing people start tapping out. People are on the side. They're under those aluminum-looking blankets. The EMTs are running. There are people that you're like, oh, are they going to be okay? And then, of course, the French Boy Scouts just running back and forth with them in stretchers. They're just, I'm like, what is going, how are you guys running? I mean, it's just whistling to each other, signaling, and I am just like, okay, I'm just gonna focus and try to stay in my own mind and just really, I got to get past this 18th mile. And I am telling you, the last break is at the 22-mile mark, and I'm just going, I can't stop, honey. I quite literally do not think I can move anymore. And I look over at my husband, and I'm thinking, I'm having end-of-life thoughts, I'm wondering if our will is in order, and I'm thinking about the kids, and I kind of want to cry, and I'm just like, I can't physically take another step. I cannot do that. And I look at my husband, and he's also similarly in this thought. You can just see he's really thinking. And I say, honey, just thinking about the kids. What are you thinking about? And he was just like, could you imagine doing this in full suited armor in medieval times? And I realized that I had married a French Boy Scout by mistake. By mistake. I just looked at him, I'm like, and he says to me that he got a text message from one of the priests back at home, and our priest said to him, like, has she divorced you yet? And I want to be clear, not for a single second throughout that entire pilgrimage did I see an attorney's office, or I would have been in there. But we were in the countryside, so we were stuck with one another. And as we got to the last 4 miles, all uphill, I remember looking at Father Witos, and he's just got a cheery Australian smile on his face. And I'm like, honey, we just have to keep going, because if I stop, I'm physically just going to fall apart. And I said, I'm going to be honest with you, Father, I feel like I'm going to die. And if it's just the biggest smile on his face, Father Witos said to me, do you know somebody died last year on that hill? Not a joke. We saw the cross of somebody died. She's like, I couldn't believe this. And at this point, I'm going, should I just be Protestant? Like, is this what the Catholics do, you know? But I made it. And I'm telling you, when you see camp in the distance, and you start to see everybody flooding in, and oh my gosh, your mindset, you're going, I never thought I could do this. I pushed myself mentally, I pushed myself physically. We did this. And then, I remember getting into bed that night, and just the very last thought that came in my brain was, you have to do this all again tomorrow. And that really has been my thought process, just realizing as I jump into this next thing, realizing my life was great, Now I've realized this, and it's the truth, the capital T truth. And the capital T truth is that it was never about an attack on Trump or free markets or Marxism or race, What's always been going on is that it has been an attack on Christ. It truly has been. And it is so tempting not to dive into that. It's so tempting to say, life is great. These are just the one thing you just don't have to talk about. And you can keep everything, your career. You can keep, the same set of political friends. You just don't veer too much into speaking about Jesus Christ. Don't recognize that big truth, the comfort of being able to stay there. Your life's great. Husband, you are happy. The kids are happy. Just don't start speaking about Jesus Christ. And it's so tempting to have kept things the way that they were. But the more that I thought about it, and the more that I saw it, and the more that I studied history, I knew that for me, there could be no other option. And I knew that it was going to cost me pain. I knew that for everything that I had done in my career, in a way, God was saying to me, that was only the first day. I'm going to have to do it all over again. And I'm going to have to endure the media attacks, and I'm going to have to endure the smears and the libels and the 3,500 emails that they received trying to stop me from speaking at this event. 3,500 troll emails trying to terrorize people from hosting me at this event. And when I learned that was happening, I chuckled. I said, oof, they don't know Catholics. And so I don't know where this is going, but I rely on just the feeling that I felt on that third day. Once the last day is 16 miles, and I cannot explain to you what overcomes you when you see those spires in the distance. And you're all listening to the priest tell the story of the Chartres Cathedral, how another one of these accidents during World War II, bad intel, they were told, the Americans, to shell it, shell it, bring it down, because there's Nazis inside. And gratefully, there was a Christian American, a general, who just said, I just don't know why I feel like that's bad intel. And he volunteered himself to go across enemy lines, to walk into the cathedral, and to ring the bell if there were no Nazis. And they went over and they saw that there was no Nazis inside, and so that cathedral still stands today because, yeah, it's an incredible story. And I'll never forget the feeling when you can feel nothing. I mean, by that third day, your hair hurts. Have you ever sprained your hair? Your hair hurts. And then suddenly you realize why the Latin Mass, when all of the French citizens in this tiny little town come out and they're holding their babies and they've got their family and they join you in prayer, in the Latin prayer. And you can't help but to be overcome by emotion. You can't help but to understand why it is that it is supposed to be one holy apostolic church. It has been that, just knowing that finally I've landed on the only fight that actually matters. Everything else is auxiliary, everything else is subsidiary, and I know that that feeling that I felt is, I don't know when it will come, and we're going to get through this trying time, and I think I realized truly that I had become a Catholic when I went through all of this persecution, and I was so happy. I was Father Witos. I was like, yeah. And my husband's like, you got 20,000 articles being written about us all around the world. You know, I think somebody died on the side of the road. I mean, I'm just smiling, going, yeah, this is amazing. Because to be persecuted, man, that is the story of Christianity. And I am so blessed, and I want to say to you all that I am so grateful because I emerge here so humble, just the humility of understanding that the Catholics around the world have lifted me up in prayer. The Catholics around the world were praying for me before I even was a Catholic, and they found out my husband was one. They said they set their timers. They knew that it was only a matter of time. And I am so grateful to each and every one of you for lifting me and my family up in prayers. We are at the beginning of day 2, but I promise you that in the end, we win. Thank you guys so much for having me.